Okay, so this morning I'm going to make a video that's kind of different than anything I've made before. Starting to experiment, or starting to use actually more and more and more on a daily basis, cast iron cookware. So I'm going to make a cooking video using my Lodge. Well, you can see that Lodge. These are cheap pans that I bought. I think got this one at Target or something. This one is like a 6.5 inch. It's a number 2. And I use a glass top stove. And I'd heard that, they were hard to cook in. And when I first got them, I was concerned because the inside of them is rough. And I was thinking, well, everything will stick. And I've watched lots of videos on YouTube, and they say, well, it's sticky because it's rough. And I found the opposite to be true. It's mostly sticky because I was doing it wrong. At least, there's a million different videos and a million different ways to do this this kind of a cooking experiment. But I'm going to show you what has worked for me. So, I eat a lot of protein, so eggs and egg whites primarily are the things that I'm making for breakfast most days during the week because it's quick and nutritious. And I used to use a Teflon pan, and I had continued to use that even after I got rid of all the other Teflon, because I thought maybe that Teflon was quicker and simpler and easier, and it is a little bit, I would say. But then last week I started using exclusively the cast iron, and looking at how I was cooking, and I made some adjustments. So basically what I do is I start with a pan that's, clean and well seasoned, and you can kind of see inside how nice and shiny this is. So I've had this pan maybe a little bit less than a year, I think, but I haven't cooked in it that much, only in the last, cooked with it a little bit when I first got it, and then the last month or so I've really been cooking more with it. So I'm going to show the method that I do for cooking eggs. And eggs is one of the things, eggs stick. Well, I don't think the eggs stick so much as it is the way that people are cooking them. So I've got a few different tools that I'm going to use. One is the cast iron pan itself. Another is just an egg. And then I use a little bit of butter, and this is a quarter of a pat of butter that I use in a pan this size. It's more than enough. And the other thing I use, which I guess is kind of my, I could say is my secret recipe, is I use canola oil. And I don't use a whole lot. And I used to use the canola oil even in the Teflon pans, because eggs would stick in the Teflon pans as they got older. So I would use a little bit of the canola oil just to spritz to keep it from sticking. Well, it helps that in the cast iron, but it also performs another task. The canola oil has a real high flash point or smoke point, so what this does is it raises the burn point of the butter when you put it in. So I start off with just a spritz of canola oil in the pan. I'm going to do that now. Do it over the sink so it doesn't get all slippery on the floor. So we start with some canola oil, and you can see there's a little bit in there, just a little in the pan. And then the second thing is the heat. I think it's the number one thing that people make a mistake with is the heat, because the heat in the pan, and I spray the canola oil when it's cold, but the heat in the pan is important. So it's a combination of enough fat in the pan and having the pan at the right temperature. Before I was cooking the eggs like I would in the Teflon pan, I'd put them in, just when the pan started to feel warm, I'd put the egg in. Well, what I found through experiments is that for me, the ideal temperature for cooking in the cast iron pan is around 350. So I try to get the pan up to about 350 degrees. There's a lot of people who say, oh, well, you have to hold your hand, and I want to know. So I bought another tool. So I got this on Amazon, which is just a inexpensive, $20, $25, something like that, infrared thermometer. So I can see the temperature of the pan. So like right now, I just turned it on and it's up to about 149 degrees already. So I use that, and I don't do anything with the butter or putting anything in the pan until I have the pan up to what I consider the proper temperature, which is around 350 degrees. So, and I'm getting to the point now where I can kind of tell by putting my hand over the pan, you know, kind of what the 350 feels like. And so I think it becomes a little bit more second nature when you understand how it feels. But I also don't put it on super high heat. I put it on about medium to medium high, and I let the pan come up to temperature slowly instead of you know, trying to get it blazing hot first. And that's the other problem, is if you get it too hot, then you're going to have problems. So it seems like if it's too cold, the food sticks, and if it's too hot, then the food burns and sticks. But I found that waiting till about 350 to put the butter in seems to be just about right. And so I'm just going to go ahead and wait for the pan to heat up here, and then we'll move on. So let's see where we are. Temp 235. So we're getting there. It's going up slowly. So I'll bring you back when the pan is to the proper temperature. Okay, so the pan is up to 350. I'm going to put the butter in. And the other thing I try to do with the butter is I try to make sure I get good coverage of it on the pan. Keep the pan at 350. So you see it's bubbling, it's not burning, it's not smoking. The canola oil helps with that. I usually wait until the bubbles pretty much subside from the moisture coming out of the butter. It's a reaction, I think, between the oil and the moisture in the butter. And crack the egg. Starts cooking right away, so the pan is decently hot. So we just let it cook. Again, it's if you have finicky heaters, like my wife is kind of finicky. Excuse the air conditioner. My wife is kind of finicky. She doesn't like brown on her eggs, so I have to try and get them to where they're not browned at all. So, but I'll show you at this point. You can see the egg slides in the pan. There's nothing special. I haven't done anything to it other than that little bit of canola oil and having the butter. So it's not a whole lot of fat. It's a little bit. And I kept experimenting. I'd start off with a whole pat, and the pan this size, the whole pat of butter is swimming in it. Tried to half, got down to a quarter, and that seems to be about right. But you can see the egg is just starting to cook, and it's freely sliding in the pan, no sticking. So I believe that for the Lodge pans anyway, the ones I have, it's pretty simple. You just have to use the appropriate amount of heat, the appropriate amount of fat, and then you want to have a good cleaning regimen at the end. So always clean the pan. I don't ever use soap in it because soap will destroy the seasoning. And then the other thing I do is I will season them every single time I use them. And so that was the part when I was keeping the Teflon pan, I was thinking, well, you know, because I don't have to do the seasoning and all that in the morning. It's an extra 5 minutes, literally, extra 5 minutes. So I clean the pan first, and then while I'm cleaning up everything else from the breakfast food, I put the pan on a, you know, the same medium-high, medium temperature, and then I do the cleaning of it. It's pretty simple. So, and as you can see, absolutely no stickage. Let's see if I can get the spatula under there enough to flip it. So this is the way I like my eggs. I like the brown, and I also like the yolk kind of smashed out, so it'll be kind of ugly there for a minute till that starts to cook. But this is how I like my fried eggs. As you can see, even popping the yolk, nothing sticking. So it's the combo of the two oils. The canola oil covers the pan, raises the smoke point of the butter. Because it used to be I just use butter, I'd throw that in at 350 and boy, it just started burning automatically. And then everything that you cook tastes like burned butter, which is no bueno. It is not good. So, yeah, so that's pretty much it. Nice fried egg. Nothing sticking in the pan. It's a pretty simple situation. The pan is getting a little bit hot, so I need a little bit more insulation. Flip that back over, make sure the yolk is cooked all the way. So that's it. Pretty simple. And, you know, so egg sticking in the Lodge pan. Now, I have cooked, I'll be honest, I've cooked in this for, you know, a few weeks. But it's only been a few weeks. I mean, I've had the pan for a while, but they just sat in the pantry and I wasn't using them because I had those non-stick. But I mean, my gosh, look at that. My Teflon pan never was non-stick like that. I could never do that with a Teflon pan, even with the canola oil in it. So that's it. That's my obligatory fried egg video using the Lodge stainless steel pan. Stainless steel. Cast iron pan, not stainless steel. I tried it with the stainless steel ones and I haven't mastered that one yet because everything sticks to those. You have to have those at exactly the right temperature. And I've been unable to crack the code on that. Sometimes it works perfect, other times not. But that's why I went back to the cast iron, because there's no stick, doesn't work. With the stainless steel, works perfectly with these. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed it. Talk to you later. Bye. Okay, so another thing, the cleaning. We talked about the cleaning regimen. So what I do is pretty straightforward. Watched a bunch of videos, tried to come up with what the best method was. And so far what I see is that the real important thing is hot water. So just get the water hot. I've run this a few seconds before, so it's nice and hot. And just rinse the oil out. And what I do is I use a scrubby, but I only use the yellow side, the sponge side, and then just kind of wipe it and make sure all of the loose particles and the butter and all that fat that was in there kind of come out. And if there's anything on the outside, wash that too. And so it's just hot water. I mean, the pan is a good conductor of heat, and it really gets hot fast. So this water, I think, is probably 120 or 130 degrees. So just do that, and then make sure the water's all out of it, and then I use just some paper towels to dry it. So basically I just take a paper towel and try and get all of the moisture out of the pan off the outside of it. And then I take it and put it on the stove. So it's warm already, it's about 120 degrees. Put it on the stove and turn it to that kind of medium to medium high. And while that's being heated, I'm going to clean up the spatula here. So a little soap and water on that. All the particles, and usually by the time I get done with cleaning up the other parts, the pan will be warm enough. So now we're switched to the other position by the stove. The pan is heating. I have my infrared gun again, and it's 155. So what we want to do is we want to get the pan to be, I'm thinking, in the 220, 250 range. You want it to be hot, because you need to have the pan hot in order for the oil to be absorbed into the pores. So Should have been better prepared. So what I use for seasoning, I tried a bunch of different stuff. I've tried flaxseed oil, which is super expensive and hard to find. I tried olive oil, but I didn't like the fact that the pans all smelled like olive oil. And so I watched a bunch of videos, and there's one, the guy's the Culinary Fanatic on YouTube, and he has a massive cast iron collection, and he uses Crisco. So I went and found a little can of Crisco, and contrary to what some people say, don't use paper towels, I use paper towels. Now what I do is, Cowboy Kent Rollins says that you want the pan hot, and I think he's right. And he says just touch it right where the handle meets the pan, and see when you can't hold your, let's get into that point now, when you can't hold your fingers there, it's hot enough. And this says it's about 256, so that's about the right temperature. So I'm going to turn the heat off, and then I'm going to move the cast onto the off of the heat, and I just put a little tiny bit on the paper towel, and then just coat, a thin coat of Crisco on the inside of the pan. You can see it's readily melting right away. And just make sure I've got good coverage, and so you can kind of see there it's looking kind of shiny, and that's it. I just put a little bit of Crisco on it, and then I use another clean paper towel, and just wipe off the excess. And that's what you want. You want it to be, can't let it start to get hot. You just want it to be a nice thin coating. That's it. Let it cool, and you're ready for the next cook. So that is all. So one last little look there, so you can see it's all shiny like it was at the beginning. Looking good. And that's the end of it. So that's all.